Hello, my name is Charles Durrett. I'm an architect with McCammon & Durrett Architects. With my wife, Katie McCammon, we wrote the book, Creating Co-Housing, Building Sustainable Neighborhoods. We have devoted our careers to designing co-housing and developing co-housing around North America and consulting around the world. How many of your neighbors do you know? How many of them do you feel comfortable going over, borrowing a cup of sugar, and stopping to have a cup of coffee? In the United States, that number is dwindling. Ill-planned suburbs, estranged neighbors. When I was going to the University of Copenhagen in 1980, every day I walked by various neighborhoods, condominiums, apartments, etc. But there was one that's really stood out. People lived between the buildings. People stopped and chatted with each other over and over. People came and went from this building where nobody lived, but everybody lived. Later learned it was the common house. I asked someone there, what's going on here? And she explained to me that her and her husband had grown up in a functioning neighborhood, and they wanted their children to be able to as well. She noted at length that it's random in today's built environment, and she didn't want to take that possibility for granted. So she created her own neighborhood called co-housing. Intergenerational co-housing is all about the children. There's no better way, frankly, to see the unfolding of a healthy youth than in a supportive co-housing community. Katie and I raised our child, Jessie, in such a community. Jessie spent her formative years around some of the best role models that she could have asked for. We could not have imagined a more supportive setting than a village of other parents to help us. What makes co-housing different than the average neighborhood? Architecture plays an important role in the success or failure of a co-housing community, which sometimes goes unnoticed until you realize that the neighborhood is not doing what you had hoped for. Remote parking makes the environment child and senior friendly. Good acoustics allows you to talk to your neighbor during common dinner and not have to shout over the next table. The feel of a place that is warm and giving. A common house that keeps you wanting to come back. Lots of common places like workshops and gardens. Co-housing communities circulate around the common areas, which consist of not only a large common house, but also plenty of green space. Co-housing neighborhoods, for example, have pools and play areas where residents can share interests and, more importantly, can connect with one another. Front porches that face one another rather than the street is another part of creating a car-free environment and makes a natural safety perimeter for the kids to play in. This has all but been lost in regular suburban tracks. Affordability seems to be key in the creation of multi-generational co-housing. When we built Muir Commons in Davis, California, the first co-housing community here, 23 out of 26 households were first-time buyers. Vancouver co-housing was very similar. Most of the group of the Vancouver co-housing community could have never bought a single-family house in that town. They learned to work together and create the community of their dreams. When it comes to making co-housing affordable, working together is the key. It's simply a lot easier than if you're going to try to do it on your own. One of my favorite parts of living in multi-generational co-housing is watching the kids actually sage the elders. It happens more often than you might imagine. I continue to learn from the youth in our co-housing. I was recently asked if there's only one thing that you think people should know about intergenerational co-housing, what is it? And that is that there's actually no healthier way to raise children than a community. Not only are the parents supported in multi-generational co-housing, but the children have a much richer experience than watching TV or sitting in front of a computer. Co-housing is having a choice between privacy and community. Everyone has their own private house, but they also have extensive common facilities. The book, Creating Co-Housing, Building Sustainable Neighborhoods, was written because Katie and I really believe in it, and we want to share that with others. Too often, a movement can get lost in fear and the status quo. Through intentional shifts towards community, shared dinners, front porches, Living in co-housing can be much more fulfilling and much more enriching than living in a single-family house. If you're interested in creating a community of your own, read the book, then look us up. We'd love to help you and make your co-housing dream come true. cohousingco.com or cohousingsolutions.com. Thanks very much for joining us, and we hope you explore co-housing further. Thank you.